Writers Week Day 2. You are an awesome audience, and you are in for such a treat this hour with three of my very favorite friend people behind me. Give them a round of applause. And then please turn off your iPads and cell phones, and make sure you thank a friend booster and your English teacher for being here today. Without further ado, here's Mr. Anderson, Mr. Russ Anderson.
Hello, welcome to Writers Week Day 2. We are all extremely nervous because we're doing something completely different than we've ever done. Added on because the first two periods of students today were unreal. If anybody was in here, it's just been amazing. So yeah, that's fantastic. We have read together for, this is our third or fourth year doing this. And we've always just done different pieces, but this year we thought we'd do something a little bit different, inspired by some other Writers Week guests. Mary Fonz, if anybody saw her yesterday, actually did a piece from this book called Bared Knuckled Lit. We have a guest coming, Ian Belknap, on Friday, and he started this thing called Write Club in Chicago, where two writers are given opposing ideas, and they write an essay of 7 minutes, and they present said essay to an audience, and by audience clapping, they determine who wins. Some of these will be on sale Friday, but some of the bouts are native versus foreign, angels versus demons, roots versus branches, work versus play, fantasy versus reality. You guys kind of get the idea. So we thought it would be fun to kind of find a group of 3 words that we could all battle against each other. And we're going to ask for you guys at the end to kind of vote by applause who you think is the best, or who you think won. So the words that we chose were ifs, ands, buts. Okay? And we don't know who wrote what. I mean, I know what I wrote, and they know what they wrote, but I don't know which of them has what. And we don't know the order that we're going to read in. It's going to be random. So I'm going to ask Ms. Burdick and Ms. Fritz to come up here. And there's a cup that just has 1, 2, 3. We're going to pick our numbers, and then we're going to go. So we're very nervous. Okay. I know, right? It's real.
We're all shaking right now.
I picked 2. No, I picked 2 by accident.
Oh. Wait, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
You're going third. Or is it, I'll read. I got 1.
I got 2, you got 3.
Whatever. I'm first, of course. Are we clapping in between pieces as just an unofficial thanks for doing that, and then an official clap at the end for who won? Yeah, all right. All right, so I had ands. All right. When I graduated high school, I didn't know what I was doing, and arguably still don't, or what I was going to do. Yet I was mired in a surrounding abyss of the apparent certainty of my classmates. I was nervous, to say the least. I was pretty good at math and physics and was contemplating a possible career in mechanical engineering. I liked poetry and the discussion of big ideas, so English seemed like a fit too. I played in a rock band and wanted to join show choir, which, while seemingly the oil and water of the musical world, went together in my head quite nicely, so music was an option. I also knew that there were a smorgasbord of other disciplines I didn't have time to study in high school, like psychology, sociology, and ecology, that could definitely work too. So I went into college with the major undecided. That's real. Undecided. I didn't even know that was a thing, but what luck. What unbelievable luck. Without this, I would have been stunted, a marooned voyager pigeonholed onto a singular path that ultimately would have left me pondering the most gut-wrenching and unfathomably empty sentiments. What if? And I wish I would have, but... Because I was undecided, I got to study both Ohm's Law and Ezra Pound. I read about the Crusades and kinesiology. I played a didgeridoo and learned of cultural relativism and was the subject of numerous volunteer psychological experiments that, I'm not ready to talk about right now. I met this amazing girl in a jazz a cappella group and I fell in love. Yeah, heartstring pluck, heartstring pluck. All right, I'm not sure that last one can be directly attributed to my inability to declare a major right out of high school, but you see where I'm going. In my freedom to explore ideas, I was granted autonomy, purpose, direction, identity. It was through these ands that I was able to carve my way, plant myself, and grow. We are, unfortunately, living in an increasingly specialized society. At earlier and earlier ages, we are seemingly bred for a solitary purpose: doctor, lawyer, CEO, engineer, and you are living proof of this. You have played one instrument since you were 4, or you've cut down from playing 3 sports to 1. All your electives, if you have the gall to bypass an AP class and that precious GPA points, are pointed in the direction of your one future career, right? And if you don't do these things, you've fallen behind. You're not worth spending time on. You're forgotten. All the attention of the coach, teacher, director, or manager is now being paid to the kid whose parents have had him enrolled in private lessons since he was like 6 months old. You may as well just give up. And this is what we're told. We're told, if you really want to go do that other thing, you can, but the depth of your pursuit will be utterly insufficient. When did we get this way? When did our praise surround depth only, and abandon individual breadth? Now that all of you are in high school, you're probably being bombarded with this question. Well, what do you want to be? This question sucks because it ignores everything that you already are. You are a daughter, and a sister, and a student, and an athlete, and a friend, and a girlfriend, and an actor in the musical, and someone's life source, and a thinker of great thoughts, and a solver of life's mysteries, and a future awesome person who's going to change the world, and it's okay if you don't know what the change is going to be right now, but I know you're working on it. And you better be working on it. My counterparts behind me want you to think that "and" is a hindrance to progress, that "and" is really a manifestation of our selfish indulgences, and thus everything that is wrong with society, that we are never satisfied with the present, always trying to satiate our ravenous hunger for more. I need more clothes, and more money, and more retweets of this meme I created of this guy with a surprised look on his face that says, "That calc test had me like." And to Burdick and Fritz back there, I say yes, yes. And means that we are not complacent with the present. But why should we be? And means that we acknowledge a greater, albeit unexplored, landscape that needs to be traversed, or more importantly, created. And means that we're not done yet. And means that with each breath in and each breath out, we're accepting the challenge to add to the moment. And is a go-getter. And is a doer. If isn't this hopeful beacon that shines in the darkest corners of our lives. No. If is that friend that won't help you unless you agree to help him first. Yeah, I can give you a ride if you pay for my movie ticket. C, I'll help you with your Spanish homework if you send me the answers to the earth science test. It's sickening. And is ambition, drive, tenacity. But is hesitation, passivity, and lethargy. I do want to help you, but not right now. I would go live in the real world and have conversations with other human beings, but this video game is just too good. But with 1 T is also oddly indistinguishable from but with 2 T's, therefore making it inferior pretty much by default. And is greatness. Da Vinci, a painter, and a sculptor, and a writer, and a musician, and a botanist. Shakespeare, a poet, and a playwright, and an actor. Mary Fonz, a quilter, and a poet, and a blogger. Kanye, a producer, and a rapper, and an asshole. And is greatness. And one more thing I want to impress upon you, maybe most of all, your greatness, the one that's boiling inside of you, waiting to reveal itself like a magician's prestige, your greatness will be nothing like the greatness of the person sitting next to you. Your branches will spread in different directions from their roots. You grow in this direction, and they'll sprout that way. And that's good. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, "Whatever you are, be a great one." We have the ability and responsibility to ourselves and to one another to pursue our own goals, dreams, and desires, and not let any ifs or buts get in our way. We are our strongest and our most powerful when we are all encouraged to flourish in our own direction. Your map, your life is not yet plotted. Now go out and live it. Thank you. I think Ms. Burdick's up next.
I don't want to deal with the tiny thing that's up here. I can't get over how nervous I am about this. Okay.
Hang on, I'm just testing the mic here, okay. If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? The world will never know the you I've come to know. That was the song that got stuck in my head as I drove home from the restaurant where Russ and Andrea and I had just figured out what we're going to write about Writers Week this year. I looked down at that little slip of paper in my hand with that tiny 2-letter word on it, if. What does that mean? If a picture paints 1,000... Oh my God, that song by the band Bread from the 70s is stuck in my head. It got stuck in my head, which is actually called an earworm, by the way. That's when a song gets stuck in your head and keeps playing and playing. I know that from my Snapple caps that I read all the time and try to remember, but always forget. A second song came crashing into my head as I drove home in the snow that night, and I realized my musical theater roots were starting to take over with If I Were a Rich Man, oh my God, I can't get up there and sing Broadway show tunes with the word if in them the whole time. Nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about. If, such a small word, and yet one of the best words ever, because if is all about possibilities. Let me right now, first of all, totally tear apart whatever it is that my esteemed colleagues, very misled though, are going to say here about their words. And, a needed word, sure, but so annoying overall, especially if you live near Chicago like we do and it comes out and. And is annoying and also becomes monotonous because it means never ending. There's always something more with and. And then she said, and then he said, and then she said, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on. But, but's even worse. It's always a negative word. But always stops you from doing what you want. I'd run for student council, but I'd ask that girl out, but things don't get done with but. But cuts us off and keeps us from following our dreams. If points us in the direction of our dreams. If, in one of the smallest words ever, there's such infinite hope and possibility. If I win the lottery, if I get an A on my test, if I keep practicing, I'll make the team. If keeps us dreaming and hoping and wanting to achieve, to be better, smarter, faster, funnier, kinder, the stuff that dreams are made on, to kind of quote Shakespeare. Think of what has come from all the possibilities that if has inspired. The Wright brothers, what if man could fly? Alexander Graham Bell, what if we could communicate over long distances? Thomas Edison, what if we could have electric light bulbs and be able to see better in the dark? Copernicus and Galileo, what if the earth is not the center of the universe? Our own founding fathers, what if the common people ruled themselves? All these things affect us every single minute of our lives, all inspired by if. Where else do we find ifs? Well, as an English teacher and drama director, how could I not turn to Shakespeare for inspiring ifs as well? If music be the food of love, play on from Twelfth Night. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now, Julius Caesar. Romeo says to Juliet, if I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle sin is this: my lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss. And oh yes, he gets that kiss. Finally, in Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare has his character Shylock ask some of the most important if questions when it comes to addressing prejudice and showing how there is no difference at all between Christians and Jews. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, will we not revenge? As I drove home from that meeting about a month ago, wondering what the heck I could write about the word if, more earworms came slithering out of my mind, making me realize that musicians and lyricists have been pondering the wonder of if for years and years. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. If I could turn back time. If you don't know if I fell in love with you, would you promise to be true? Why are all my earworms of such older melodies? I get home and I Google if and song lyrics for more recent songs, and I find, oh, What If by Coldplay, If You Could See Me Now by The Script, and even Meghan Trainor has a song named What If? And who in this room in the past year has not had this earworm of another If song going on in your head? Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Don't worry, I'm stopping there. But when it comes to professing ourselves in song, if is universally profound and timeless. And of course, you all know the most famous of if phrases, so inspirational and awesome because it is about baseball. If you build it, they will come. You all need to think about the possibilities of if. Ask yourself if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, computer genius, entrepreneur, movie star, comedy legend, astronaut, minister, quarterback, writer, dad, mom, best friend, the best that you can be all that and more. If lets you dream, and if lets you set your goals to achieve those dreams. If is action in motion, not monotonous and dream-breaking but. I will leave you all today with, of course, one final thought from Shakespeare. At the end of A Midsummer Night's Dream, the character Puck entreats the audience for applause by, of course, using that stunning word, if. So, give me your hands if we be friends, and Miss Burdick shall restore amends. Okay. Nervous. The first responses I get when people learn that I held the title of Miss Illinois have a lot to do with this list of ands. Crowns and makeup and gowns and crying and Miss Idaho's high heel accidentally on purpose being broken by Miss New York's dad's mafia boss and fake everything and world peace and Burt Parks and Honey Boo Boo and big hair. There are lots of ands to Miss America cliches that aren't always true to experience. For the majority of my year as Miss Illinois, I drove to speaking engagements where I didn't wear crowns, but where I tried to make the best difference I could promoting my platform, youth violence prevention. But I don't always share that part of it because the stories that people ask about have to do with the ands. They like to hear how I made my mouth so sore from tooth whitener that I couldn't talk without feeling like I'd slammed my face into Hellraiser's head for 3 days. They like to hear how competitors use spray-on glue to keep their swimsuits in place. In fact, I know a girl who used so much spray glue that when she went to the restroom, she got stuck to the toilet. So there are some ands in the list of pageant cliches that deliver. But before that girl used the bathroom, she had to be brave. Knowing she was plastered in spray glue, she had to be brave enough to bare her butt. All I'm saying is that while and can be an ongoing list of possibilities, but brings with it the potential for real bravery. But is courageous because unlike ceaseless lists of ands, buts are definitive, even if what follows a but contradicts what precedes the but. For example, they can be as simple as, dude, my teacher told me not to open that suspicious email, but... Or it can be as complex as, I love you, but I don't want us anymore. Buts can be messy. So to actually speak your butt, your truth, is so brave. Sometimes when the topic of being Miss Illinois comes up, I laugh with people about pageant stereotypes and they walk away without knowing what the experience really meant to me because I'm embarrassed by the list of ands. So here's a but. That year, I spoke in some tough schools. When looking for a way to connect with audiences, I read an article about Stanley Tookie Williams, founder of the Crips gang. He started the gang in the early 60s as a way to protect himself from other gangs in his LA neighborhood. The Crips took part in destructive, nationwide gang warfare. 20 years into his prison sentence, Stan realized that the only thing that mattered was not the list of ands that theretofore defined him, prisoner and gang leader and accused murderer, but forward motion.
So he began writing books for kids that de-glamorized the street and prison lifestyles. I received so many thank yous from students for sharing his story that I wanted to speak with Stan myself. The short of what followed is this. After months of letter correspondence between Stan and me, where he delivered messages that I could read at schools, I was asked to tape for an episode of 60 Minutes about Stanley and flown to California to meet him. That June, I passed through the San Quentin State Prison metal detectors that opened into a cement room lined with 5-foot by 5-foot metal cages. Each death row inmate had his own cage in which to host visitors. A guard opened one side of the visiting cage to let me in, then locked it behind me. Stan was escorted to the cage from the opposite side, where his assigned guard opened the door and let him in, then unhandcuffed him through a slot in the door after it was locked behind him. I wasn't nervous about our 3-hour visit because we had much to discuss, particularly his new book geared toward incarcerated girls, a book that I could help write because of the youth prison ministry that I'd done. I was not face-to-face, knee-to-knee with the monstrous Stanley Tookie of reputation, but with a soft-spoken, gray-haired, middle-aged gentleman. I'm not defending his crime, but I believe his redemption. In our time together, Stan spoke with the composed intellect and wisdom that only a man so aware of his mortality could have. I believed his simplicity, sincerity, and humility when he said this madness of violence has to stop. We have to deliver a message of self-love. I don't want to see another single person end up like me. Stan shared that his cell overlooked the Pacific Ocean, but that he never looked out the window because imagining being on the water, being free, brought him to questioning who he could have become if he had made different choices. It wasn't physical circumstance that imprisoned Stan. It was thinking about the ifs that imprisoned him. If I hadn't grown up there, if I hadn't met him, if I hadn't gone there that night, if can be such a trap. If we get paralyzed in our ifs and ands, we may never face reality and not live out the rest of our stories. Stan was executed in December of 2005. I have this Polaroid of us 6 months prior to that, and it reminds me that Stan could have died caged, voiceless, and in self-defeat. But he wrote. In the end, he helped people because he refused the ifs and ands trap. He stopped believing he was a cliche, a long list of ands lost on an endless ocean of eternal ifs. He said it best in a letter from February of 2004. Keep your heart in the right place. Bless the world with the radiant traits of compassion, altruism, spirituality, and love. Indeed, I'm honored to have this brief opportunity to enter your mind not with drugs, violence, or lies, but with a message of life. Yes, being Miss Illinois gave me funny stories and a few glamorous nights, and yes, I embody a few cliches. But, for me, it was really about grace and hope. So what are your buts? Bear those buts. Write them, tell them, brave them. Because you are not your ifs, you are not your ands, but you can be one hell of a beautiful butt.
Hey guys, so we're going to decide this through your applause. All right? Typically that's how it works in a Write Club, so I'm going to stand behind one of these lovely people, and you raise the roof for that person, depending on whether or not you think they win. Give me 1 second.
A lot of money riding on this.
A lot of pride.
Hey, stand behind me. Miss Fritz. Miss Bernie. Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. He has to give a speech for winning. So.
Thank you. You guys will all see the extra credit in your grade book starting next week. We have like 3 or 4 minutes. If anybody has questions kind of about this process or about our pieces or anything like that, we'd be happy to answer those. Yes, hands over here. There's two right next to each other. I don't care. I think wherever Mrs. Ank is, do we still have some copies from Mary? Friday, there will be here, Mr. Ian Belknap is going to be here periods 5 and 6 on Friday, and he will be bringing copies, so they'll be available for purchase then. You can also get them online too, but if you get them here, you can sign them. It's a great anthology, great collection. Yes? Yes, oh, Mr. Beta.
What ideas did you start with before writing your poems?
Ooh, that's a good question. What other ideas did we, oh, me personally or everybody? What ideas did you have before you wrote what you wrote? Are you talking about like our 3 ideas or like what we actually wrote?
What you actually wrote.
Okay.
What ideas did...
I just had that, I don't know, it just came to me.
Well, I said it in my piece. I went home that night and I had all those stupid songs going through my head, and I was like, well, I can't just write about songs. So I finally came up with some other things about If, but the songs just kept coming. It was weird.
Yeah, mine kind of came from this idea of specialization, that we're kind of geared to do one thing. I kind of talked about, I taught sports lit last semester and we talked a little bit about that. So I guess it was bred from that. I did a lot of writing recently, last night for some of it. So a lot of it right at the top of the dome there. Is there a hand over here? Like one more question? No? Yes, up here. Oh yeah. Do you have it? We created a list. We were hanging out at an establishment and brainstorming ideas. And Miss Fritz has kind of special handwriting that's difficult for me to decipher a little bit, so I'm going to hand it over to her.
So we had If, Stands, and Buts. That was the first one on the list. Shapes, colors, tastes, senses, seasons, beginning, middle, and end, lions, tigers, and bears, 3 characters from books or stories, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the lion, hearts, brains, courage, nest, egg, bird, birth, death, and life, door, window, mirror, once upon a time, meanwhile, back in the forest, happily ever after, glass, water, lights, camera, action, rock, paper, scissors, fork, knife, spoon, stop, drop, and roll. Cursive, print, type, bee, honey, hive. That was it. Good list.
Great prompts if you want to do some of your own writing. Thank you so much for listening to us. Enjoy the rest of Oiters Week.